The Lost Signals present
He's dead.
a Bon Mott's Halloween series
Zombie redneck torture family.
celebrating
Still breathing.
horror
They're entirely separate species.
with in-depth analysis,
Well, we're not talking about reality here. We're talking about fiction. It's different, you know?
adult content,
So, what side of the rainbow are we working tonight?
adult language,
Soon all of us will have special names.
and spoilers.
The devils are really angels.
Join us.
I think I'm going crazy. Here they come.
Good evening, and welcome to another special Halloween edition of Bon Mott's, or MOTS-O-Ween as we're calling it. I'm here today with Jonathan Ian Manzer,
Happy Halloween.
Rich Perry,
Greetings and salutations.
and Scott Thurlow.
Bonjour.
And today we are going to discuss Lucio Fulci's 1981 classic, The Beyond. The copy we saw today
Is
was...
it a classic?
That's exactly my
What-
question.
Well, I was going to say the copy we saw was the one that Tarantino remastered and released in 1997.
Mhm.
So you're actually, this is literally a remaster of this Italian horror film that probably not many people have heard of.
Were there any scenes that were added, or is just like a...
No.
Yeah, I
He
think
just
he just
restored
cleaned it
the
up.
print, and then, like,
Okay.
if there was any lost footage, it was reinserted.
I would like if he gussied up the dialogue a bit. But...
Thank Christ he put the lost footage back in, as we'll discuss. So go on.
Okay, so Scott, you have a log line for this.
Yeah, I'm going with B-grade version of the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark happens about 30 to 40% of this movie. That is to say, people's faces melting off or getting eaten or dissolved in some way. And also there's a story, I guess, surrounding those scenes. That's the best I have. I know it's a bit convoluted, but there you go.
Really good. We're on to Ian for a synopsis, and then you can slide right into the intro.
Okay. Actually, the plot of this film is pretty simple. There's a hotel in Louisiana, and it's a gateway to hell. A young
guess.
woman...
One of the 7 gateways to hell.
Sure. Let's not forget
I don't
that
think
detail.
that's...
Oh, we can get some sequels out of this.
a whole series to build up. A young woman inherits... artist is killed because he's trying to open up the gateway back in the 20s. In present day, 1981, a young woman buys this hotel and is trying to refurbish it.
She inherits it.
Oh,
yeah.
inherits. And yeah, like they find a book that is there's a blind woman who is kind of involved with the whole spiritual angle, and it's a very convoluted story for a very simple story. But basically, at the end, the zombie apocalypse happens, and the gateway to hell is opened up.
Or is it confined to that one town?
It's Hobbs End of Louisiana, I guess.
I imagine it. I actually believe, though, without any proof, that this is because it's attached to the whole zombie film series in Italy. I think this is kind of like their origin story for how the zombie apocalypse happened for that series.
That's an interesting
Wow.
theory, but to answer Richard's question, it doesn't really matter since the movie doesn't give a shit about that either.
But about the introduction, so it's 1927. A bunch of people in period clothing are driving up in cars and rolling up in boats with torches to
An angry mob has come.
Yeah. And they come up to this hotel where this woman is reading a book of prophecies called Ebon or something like that. And this artist is painting this kind of hellscape painting. And the mob takes him, beats him very viciously with a chain, and then crucify him in the basement, and then pour wax or lye or something like hot plaster, yeah, and seal him in, and the end for the introduction.
Yes, I agree. That's about where it should cut off. I liked it, in fact. Like, it's a classic setup. Yeah, the angry mob comes to confront I think they call them a warlock or something weird, like that, and to lock up the evil that they think is being perpetrated by him. However, we later come, of course, to find out it's actually just he happens to live in the gateway to hell. So, like, give him a break, dude.
Yeah, and he was
But,
even screaming for them to let him help him
Yeah.
because he was the only one that could stop
Exactly.
it from happening.
He was apparently keeping it at bay, even, in fact. True.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was a classic horror-ish movie setup, and I think it was fine. Like, it's quick enough. It's probably 20 minutes or less, even. And I think it sold me on at least the premise at first, so I'll give it a 1.
Considering how makeshift this entire movie is.
Yes.
They did it felt the right, it felt like it was 1927.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
all
fine.
the costuming was done well. And one of the strengths, or perhaps the only strength of this movie, is its visual effects. And the images of the chains scarring this guy
Yeah, it's pretty vicious.
were a great introduction to the gore you will see later in this film. So, yeah, I give it a 1 as well.
I like the sepia tone that he used, to kind of give it that like you guys were saying, like, the feel of like the 1927 film.
Yeah.
Except for not being in black and white. One of the things that got me about this, and really one of the reasons, as incoherent as he can be, one of the strengths of Fulci is exactly what Ian said. Is he's great visually. The introduction compared to like a lot of what we're going to see in the rest of the movie was very succinct, really well paced, really well shot. The rack focuses at the beginning worked better than they worked in any of the other parts of the film. This is a strong one for me.
I actually forgot this one part that I need to say. When you're watching his face being boiled by the plaster, all of a sudden it goes from like a horror movie thing to a jaunty tune that is hilarious, disconcerting, and amazing all at the same.
Yes.
I was gonna say that's what gave it the 1 for me.
Just that,
Just that bit of music.
No, it's funny. Like, yes, you're right. I won't dwell on it, but since you did say that, the painter being beaten by the chain sort of sets up the violence you'll see later on. The score also, like, jarringly out of place sets that up, because that also happens throughout. So
I was just gonna say the exact same thing. I was gonna say I've never had happy music be more jarring.
Yes. So it was amusing, but it was still all fine. So I think it was a solid intro.
Yeah,
So
I'm giving it a 1.
Excellent. And Rich, would you like to tell us the body?
I got to do the heavy lifting for this cast.
Or it could be really light lifting.
Yeah.
Depends on how you want to go.
All right, so this picks up in 1981 Louisiana. The main character, Liza, is her name, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Liza, yep.
Yeah. Liza, she's working on getting the hotel up and running. Unfortunately, something spooks the one of the painters who falls off the rafter. He ends up in the hospital.
But doesn't die,
Yeah, but doesn't die. Ends up in the hospital and just introduces the doctor character, who, between the two of them, go off and have a drink. He asks her history. She tells him she got the inheritance, tried to fix it up, while Neil deGrasse Tyson serenades him in the background.
Yes. Which was an amazing
I
scene.
didn't know he played clarinet.
Yeah. You do
It's
now.
very good.
He's everywhere.
No, it was clarinet.
It definitely was clarinet.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, regardless. During her drive, she finds a blind woman with a seeing eye dog,
Emily,
who introduces herself and takes her back to her house, where she plays the soundtrack from the movie.
Yeah.
You find out she's the one that's been playing this piano motif the entire time. She tells her about the hotel, how it's haunted. She obviously doesn't listen. Opens up the door, which releases the evil that's been contained in there to the rest of the town. And everybody just starts dying in very weird...
absurd ways.
Yeah, very absurd ways.
Indeed.
And like when it looks like somebody's not about to die, lightning strikes and then shit happens.
Yeah.
So this eventually culminates with all of the cast except for, I think Emily, Liza, and the doctor are left.
Yeah.
John.
Okay.
So then Emily has a confrontation with the artist from the beginning of the movie, who
was now zombified, essentially.
And she begs him not to take her back to hell. She's done everything that she was supposed to do. Sicks her dog on them, who goes to town on all these zombies until there's nothing left, and then just walks over to her covered in blood and rips out her throat during her hug.
Good boy. Arr. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think that's where the body ends, correct?
Yep. I think we agree on that.
So, I just want to tell my favorite death in this movie. So, I guess the architect or the head contractor or whatever.
He's the property brother.
Yeah, he's like the house flipping guy.
Yes, that's right.
Decides that he wants to get the original plans to the house in order to
To make his renovations, I suppose. Yeah.
Exactly. So he meets perhaps the truest depiction of a city worker I've ever seen. This guy doesn't want to be there. He's like, hey, look, I got to take my break. I'm going to lock you in this room and leave. I'll be back in
He does a roundabout way of talking about the break, too. He's like, hey, you hear about the guy that helped us out with the allowing the employees to take earlier lunch? He's like, you trying to? Yeah, I'm going to go on lunch.
Yeah. I'm going to be back in at 1:15 of 40. He just kept changing the time. Like, basically, I'm going to come back when I goddamn feel like it. And I'm locking you in here.
When I get to it, yeah. And also, I'm locking you in the library room and the Hall of Records. See you.
Where hopefully nothing will happen at all.
You won't be disturbed and won't be able to cry for help. Nothing.
And it gets even more amazing than that. So they have one of those library ladders that are very typical. He comes up to the top shelf, finds the book, opens it for some reason on the ladder when lightning strikes, and he is shocked and falls off the ladder and is paralyzed on the ground. Meanwhile, tarantulas start crawling out from underneath. But they could only afford 2 tarantulas, so they keep doing all these different shots with just 2, and like puppetry in the background. And it is amazing as you watch this guy get, in a sense, eaten by what should be a swarm of tarantulas, but just looks like...
Really, it's like 2.5.
Yeah.
Sure. The tarantulas pull out the tongue,
I think you're right about
the eye.
That might be my favorite death as well. There's one other one that's really good, but that one was incredible indeed. So no, like the thing is, yeah, all that shit is funny, but the issue I have with it is
that it was supposed to be scary.
Yeah, like yes, that like many things like that, many moments exactly that, Rich. And also, it was sort of meandering. Like, they want all these, like, plot elements. Like, they find the book that's sort of like an XP essentially for the Necronomicon, I guess, or it has the prophecies. But what does that have to do with anything? Then it bursts into flames earlier, then it comes back.
Oh, yeah, and then it just keeps popping up in random places.
And then it just shows up, and then, like, she goes to the bookstore, lies that it is, and finds it there, but then it's gone. It's all this weird shit. And all I'm saying is, it's all, like, meandering. It's padded as hell. I guess I'll say.
It's weird because it is and it isn't. And I mentioned this when we were watching it. They exposition dump unimportant points.
Yeah, and
then never discuss important
either gloss
points.
over or completely dismiss, like not give you information about things which should be important. You're right about that, for sure. So that's why it's like, again, it's all jumbling kind of mess for like the chunk of it. So I think I'm going to give it a 0. Yeah, it was amusing, like all that shit. Like we were basically Mystery Science Theatering it for a lot of it when anything like that happened. So I don't think that's a sign of like an engaging movie. Sure, it was amusing and funny to do it. However, narratively wise, it was sort of like just all haphazardly all over the place.
It was scenes of like the director is Lucio Fulci. Yeah. He is known for his brutal like deaths in his horror films.
Yeah, which definitely happened. Yeah, sure,
but I believe that this is kind of what they say about like Michael Bay, where he imagines set pieces for how he wants character, like action scenes, or in this case horror scenes, and then just loosely ties them together with a narrative. But the narrative is the less important part of this film.
Yeah, and it certainly showed. Right. Like, we forgot to mention they go to the morgue, like morgue shit happens, like stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
but like, it doesn't matter in the end. It seems
it's like he got the exposition dumps, and then he was just trying to get from set pieces. Like my absolute favorite, is where Joe the plumber dies, and his wife just happens to walk into this very stylized morgue where all the cadavers are just kind of lying on this white,
some nice white lighting,
nicely backlit. And she right after the autopsy, she dresses her husband for the funeral. And then I think lightning strikes or something happened. Or no, the brain machine was hooked up to the corpse
for some reason. See, all this, this all sounds like bizarrely out of place because the movie itself was.
Yeah, but the thing is, I love this because she screams and her daughter comes in and she's lying under this jar of acid that's just spilled on her.
Was it like hydrochloric acid? It wasn't clear.
It was.
I don't know. It was like in a Scotch decanter without a lid. I mean, it's just lying there, not behind.
It's probably just really good hooch.
Yeah, it was just bizarre as shit. But anyway,
the thing is, and the blood pool that rises out of this looks like someone went into a 7-Eleven, turned on the cherry Slurpees,
which I
just let it run.
I think we said they might have literally done that to get that shot. But anyways, so
I just want to know, why would a brain scan going off give her that much of a scare.
It doesn't matter. Like,
Why does lightning?
the movie doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
So
Why would you attach a brain scan
To
to
a
a 60-year-old
anyway,
corpse?
yeah.
You're going to attach your brain machine
what,
to
like-
that 60-year-old corpse? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, whatever.
It seemed like
For
when
science.
it seemed like when Joe
Yeah,
like
for
asked him. It
science.
seemed like when Joe asked him about that. He's like, "Oh, you're doing the brain scan." Like it's just like this weird guy is just attaching these cadavers to brain scans for some
this
reason.
is what he does. He's got a
and he's
side
like
project.
he's like kind of just over it, and he's just like, "I'm just gonna go to lunch."
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, so it's all haphazard. It's all like slapdash. Like, scenes happen that have no reason to be there, and then other things you're like, how come they explain that? And the movie's like, well, fuck you, really. So I don't know. I have to give it a 0 just because it just again was all over the place. Was sidewinding everywhere with no real.
I do as
build-up.
well. I agree.
I almost want to give it a 1 just from the sheer ballsiness of not trying to do anything to explain
Yes,
the
but
plot.
I cannot give it credit on that front.
Yeah,
I see
But
what you mean.
I'm definitely giving it a
Here's the
0.
thing: is most of my enjoyment of this film did not come from the film itself, but from laughing
Yes.
with you gentlemen
Mocking
about it.
Sure.
And it's entertaining, but not for the intention that they were.
Think of
going
it this way:
for.
if you're watching this film by yourself, you just would have been bored. Really.
Well, the thing about this movie is, and I watch it like every, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. And it's like, when I think of this movie, I think of the beginning and to the conclusion we'll get to. And the various set pieces. Like, I remember the morgue thing and the tarantula thing. But I remember the bridge, because when Liza, there's this
my
big
God,
bridge in
the
Louisiana.
longest wide shot.
Yeah,
I've
the
ever
longest
seen.
wide shot, and then she, like you said, and as Ian said, and I think we all agree, is like, visually Fulci's brilliant.
Yeah, it looks cool.
But I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it was like all the minutia. This is probably a half an hour movie with like an hour padding, like exposition after exposition.
That sounds about right.
Useless exposition.
Yes,
and
exactly.
very long
Pointless exposition.
and very long scenes of like walking. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's like when John the doctor is going to investigate the house where Emily's supposed to live. I mean, it was like a 5-minute walk up a garden path.
Yeah. For nothing, for no reason. Edit it
Yeah.
out. How come Tarantino didn't edit it out? But anyways, so I'm giving it a 0. I think we all are.
Yeah, we're zeros all around. I mean, credit where credit is due, but narratively,
Credit where credit is
there's
not-
there's
Zero
no
credit when credit is not supposed to be given.
And Scott, let's get to the conclusion,
All right.
because it's kind of hard to talk about the rest of it without
All
this.
right. So here we are. Yes, as Richard said, I believe we agree that it cuts off right after Emily, the blind seer girl who is, I guess, being forced by the agents of hell to either call
No,
people to it.
she was the girl from the beginning,
Right. Oh, she's been there forever. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she was
so-
brought back.
So she's trying to finally, I did what you wanted. Leave me alone, zombies, and etc. And then her dog valiantly fights them all off, and then betrays her instantly, eating her face off, her throat off. That is, yes.
Now, I watched this movie. What did Emily do for hell?
She was supposed. I think she was supposed.
She's like the harbinger, I guess, if to call back to Cabin in the Woods.
Okay,
Kind of.
Yeah, but also I think that she was there under the pretense of being, the harbinger to actually make sure that the gates open. But I think she was really like, when she got escaped, she was just like,
Yeah, she was very.
save yourselves, save us all. Don't find a way to close the gate.
Sure.
I guess
She was smart. She would just burn the house down.
but that wouldn't
Yeah,
have closed the
I
gate.
guess no one thought about that, but yeah.
But anyway, Scott,
The
go
movie
on.
is not clear on its own rules, so whatever. But so after that, basically, John comes back, I believe, to, if not rescue Liza, but Liza, that is to say, encounters zombified painter guy. What do we have his name? in the movie.
Zombified painter guy. I think it's Dave.
Warlock
The
from the
Warlock.
beginning. Yes.
Oh wait, you mean from the beginning? Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, his name is Schweik.
Okay, sure. I don't
Wow.
know. I don't even know if they ever said that in the
Did
film.
they?
Yeah,
it doesn't
they,
matter.
They
Again,
did. I'm looking at the spelling of it now, and that's because
the movie says "fuck you" about that, and so do I.
no,
kind
they
of.
say Spike or
Sure,
whatever. He
fine.
can't.
So she encounters that guy, zombified, and of course, then I think there's an amazing line where she's like, "Am I going crazy? Oh, maybe." But and again, the movie doesn't comment upon it at all. John comes back. Then they do actually see she gets attacked by a different zombie who was the corpse of I think the guy who died.
Arthur.
No, the guy who fell off the scaffolding.
Oh, Dave.
Dave.
That was Dave.
Yes, in the basement of the hotel.
Oh, that was Arthur in the basement.
It was Arthur in the
It
basement.
doesn't matter. Again, fine. It was either Dave or Arthur. Regardless, someone who was attacked earlier attacks her in zombified form.
He didn't even look zombified. He just looked like he
Or-
fell
yeah,
in and was trying to
The
get
movie
help.
wants you to think they're zombified, so I'll give it I'll grow with it. John finally sees the strange things happening. They leave the hotel, try to escape, and then they end up going to the hospital where Resident Evil 4 style zombies are happening. He magically shoots them with an infinite gun of bullets, apparently, but then it does run out. It's all haphazard here and there, but it's sort of a standard set piece, fighting off the zombies in the hospital, fine, whatever. And then I think Ian said they Silent Hilled it, where they go down a stairwell in the hospital and end up being magically transported, a la Mouth of Madness, if you will, back to the hotel in the basement, and then sort of walk into... I actually thought this was cool. They walk into a hellscape-ish area that is the painting that the guy painted earlier, and sort of are struck blind themselves, and it's implied that they're lost in hell, they're drifting forever, and then credits happen. So I kind of I'm a sucker for that nature of that ending, narratively wise. I kind of like that kind of thing. So yeah, while it may have taken a convoluted route to get us there, and again some amusing things happened, that were many plot holes also happened, it was still fine in the end. And I think the ending narration was pretty good. It was like a callback or a quote to something that they read from the book earlier, like "You're lost in a sea of darkness," something like that. And I liked it. I have an affinity for that kind of narrative closure, if you will, the kind of open-ended, lost in hell forever, the end. But I kind of like that, so I think I will give it a 1 just based on the strength of that.
They sort of nicely bookended this movie because it really does answer, or maybe not answer, it's too strong a word, but
gives an explanation.
No.
I'm trying.
The movie give an explanation is even a stronger of a thing than answer.
The
idea is it kind of references everything that was brought up in the opening scene with the warlock, with his painting, and they show why the painting's important at the very end, and that last shot really sold this the strength of this movie to me.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I also like I'm going to call him Cavalier Doctor.
Okay.
Because James Bond shoots some of the zombies in the head. And
oh yes, and also James Bond shoots the little girl in the head after she turns instantly, which we all found.
We didn't mention
we all found amazing.
Joe's daughter.
Yes.
But in the grand scheme of things, Joe's daughter, as tragic as her character is, has no narrative in it.
No.
It's just tragedy and then
shot in the face.
Well, she's kind of
tragedy, goes blind, and then gets shot in the face.
Yes,
she's the body.
That's her arc, if you will.
She's the body of the movie personified. I mean, you just see her. You just see
exactly.
Her. She's your POV character for certain scenes, and then when they're done with her bum.
Yeah. What does it say when she just gives up?
It's us giving up, being I guess this movie should be over soon. We'll just power through the rest of it. But anyway, I am giving it a 1, though, based on the very final 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely. That scene was beautiful.
It looked cool.
I think they used most of their. They probably used most of their budget
for that. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I love about it, and why I think Fulci would have been an amazing cinematographer, on a bigger film with the competent writers and so forth. But because he does a pullback, but it's a studio and they only have so much budget, so he pulls back as best he can, and he uses very guerrilla filmmaking. I don't know if that's right, but indie. Really indie filmmaking by just shooting the same set in whatever studio they're in, just from different ways, and
plus very neatly illustrating how endless this landscape is.
Yeah,
where they turn around and there's...
If he had the budget for a matte painting or something, he would have been able to pull back on that. But you could tell that was his intention. And, I have to say, I saw this movie the first time in the 80s at my buddy's house, and we saw it late at night. And that hellscape, the gray and the thing, I had a nightmare that night, and that was kind of the theme.
All right.
Out of all the depictions of hell, the fire and brimstone, I don't really buy, but something like that to me seems, if you pardon the expression, more realistic image.
Actually, what it reminded me of? Not a Dante painting, but I can't remember.
Hieronymus Bach.
Yeah, like the paintings that he did based on Dante's description of the Inferno. It looked kind of something like that.
Yeah.
And I really like that, so that's all. One final thing to add.
And how about that one death where the window explodes and kills Dr.
Harris?
Well,
I'm getting to that later.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So we're all going to give the ending a 1.
Yeah, definitely.
I think so.
Yeah, because
even though I came close to giving it a 0 just because the doctor never learned to continue shooting in the head.
But I have one.
I also am going to speak upon that later, but yes.
I have one theory about the ending though, is because the ending where they're down the basement, he's just like, what's your really story? I read from the book, blah blah blah, and then the wind happens, and the light, and then they run back up and they drive to the hospital, and then they're have the zombies, and they come back, and I have a feeling. Part of me thinks like they never left, like that was all kind of
illusory.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
like
yeah.
like they never left the basement. That was just because that to me, because to me the beginning and the ending are the most coherent, and I think even the ending where you kind of have to use a little of your imagination, you can take it literally, or you can, as I did, figure they never left. I think I think it does its job,
except that I think that's giving
too much
credit.
Yeah. I knew you were going to fucking say that.
No, but like I said, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because it was really, I mean, for all the
They're
bad editing in this movie.
eye gouges and tarantula bites. They're not interested in psychological
and punishing gingers.
Yeah,
Yes. That as well, sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I think they had the beginning of this movie and the end of this movie and did not know how to connect the two.
Sure. And that showed. But anyways, regardless.
Okay, so to me, it's themes.
Hell is bad.
I have no idea. I mean, I was sitting here
Don't
thinking,
own a hotel that has a gateway to hell.
yeah,
Don't
There
open
is-
the door that people don't just.
Dismiss dire warnings
Yeah.
from blind chicks that you pick
no,
up on the
the
street.
theme of the movie is visual imagery is great. It's its own talent, but you really actually need narrative too. So maybe that's.
It's not what they were intending to say.
I know that wasn't. I'm trying to come up with one. I
being
can't.
contractors in Louisiana is dangerous.
If you inherit a house that looks like this is it.
Like I just
If
said.
you inherit a house that looks like shit, needs basically the basement's flooded and it's on a river, so I'm sure that the basement's going to be flooded. Just fucking sell
Sell
the
it.
goddamn land. Tell them they can do whatever they want with them. Let them concrete or bury up the gate of hell, and let the next homeowner worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all funny, but here's the thing, right? They're not I could not discern any message that they were trying to say, even commenting upon within horror tropes themselves. Like they were just trying to make what they thought to be a semi-serious or serious horror film.
Even the zombies
But-
really didn't have much of a
Yeah,
purpose.
but yeah, exactly. Like, what were they even there for? Like, really? Like,
Well, in a way, it's the same thing as in Ghostbusters when they're like, the dead will rise in the end times.
yeah.
But
When there's no more going to
he
hell,
was
the
a
dead shall walk
fan
the earth. I
of,
get it, but
he was a fan of zombie films. I mean, he did a number of them in Italy.
sure.
So-
But there was no greater commentary, or
yeah.
all I'm saying is message, etc. So I think I might have to give
there
it a
is
0 because it was non-existent, really. Unless you guys can pull something out of your ass, that would be funny. But I
That
don't
black people are good window dressing in this movie.
That's a horrible message. I think the film, it was unfortunate implications there.
Here's the thing:
Well, it
is,
was Louisiana.
Yeah,
so.
I guess, but they weren't making a commentary upon that, outright
there
or
even-
anything really.
Even religious imagery is some of the easiest imagery to pull off, and every religious shot, whether it's people being crucified or things like that, it was all just surface dressing.
Yeah, exactly.
It was it was that we need to show that this has a biblical aspect to it, or a hellish aspect.
I honestly I wasn't moved by them crucifying the painter on the wall at all.
Yep.
I mean,
it seemed unnecessary and cruel.
Completely.
Yeah, I mean, they did kind of go over the top. I mean, all right, they went over the top a lot. But no, what I'm saying is what that should have been was if you did it more like the Cask of Amontillado, where you nail them up there and then you brick them up.
Yeah.
And you kind of have the beginning, you have something that evokes, a mystery. Maybe you're not invested in that character, you just met him, but there was and wasn't a payoff for it. His corpse ended up being there throughout the movie, and I guess we'll get to this when he's antagonist. But he really didn't have. There was no direct payoff to his arc.
No, agreed. So there are 0 themes, and I'm giving it a 0.
Oh, I'm giving it a 0 too.
Yep.
Okay, Ian, why don't you tell us
Speaking of,
who the antagonist was, and don't say me for making you watch this.
I didn't even think of that, but now you are making me watch this.
Oh, Chris is getting a 1. No.
It is zombified painter.
Swag, whatever his goddamn name you said was.
Zombie.
I don't even know if that's.
No.
I can't even call him an antagonist, though.
Yeah, I think I'm on Rich's side with this one. I think we'll speak about it shortly, but make
from
your
what
point.
I understand, the only time we interact with him, he is saying how he is trying to stop hell from being open.
Yeah.
So I don't even think he is in that body, if that's his body.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's the forces of hell. It is.
Sure.
I mean, it's the same as like Bob the plumber. Yeah, he's not an evil monster, but he becomes one when his serial killer zombie form comes back.
I mean, aside from...
So hell,
it's hell.
then.
Yeah. Hell's the antagonist.
That's what I was going to say. And yeah, like,
Hotel hell.
It's very broad, yes. But I guess, I mean, they were effective, I suppose, to an extent. They certainly racked up a number of kills in interesting ways, I guess I'll say.
Hell's got a sense of humor in this movie.
Yes, yeah, that's kind of true. And the movie itself has a sense of humor about hell, it seems. But I don't know, like, it's funny that you mentioned that, what you just said about the painter guy. But I do think it is valid. So, should I give hell a 1? Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Like,
how antagonistic was it, I guess I want to say.
That's the big thing about, if this is the origin story of all the other zombie films.
Yeah, but that's like a tinfoil hat theory that you're slapping onto this movie.
But it is within that series.
Fine,
though.
I mean, I'll give it to you.
It is attached to...
Yeah, okay, fine.
What Ian's saying is not... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but the idea is if it has the implication that this event caused zombies from the rest of those series come up, but we don't know that. All we know is that some Louisiana town... had some bad shit happen to it.
Eaten by zombies.
Yeah. That happens every other year in America.
Yeah.
So,
Jesus Christ.
Well,
all right.
No, what you're saying is not valid because when Romero made Dawn of the Dead, Dario Argento, who's another different level of Italian filmmaker, really wanted Romero to do a sequel to Night of the Living Dead and paid for that. And talk about marketing, when Fulci's film Zombie, outside the United States or in Italy or most Europe, is known as Zombie 2 because it was supposed to be a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, even though it has nothing to do with that. So out of universe, in Fulci's mind, what you're saying is very valid because, as you said, he's very into that and he takes it, I think he takes it personally, and I don't think it's all just marketing, but I think he's engrossed enough in the lore to...
I mean, maybe that's all very nice and interesting, but doesn't make it a good antagonist. Like, how does that affect your score?
Well, here's the thing is, if you're taking it in isolation, I don't know...
Yeah.
What is their motive
face value
beyond just being malevolent?
Maybe, but
because they haven't really... Because they said there's 7 gays in total, and that was 1.
Yes, true. That's right.
By screwing over this entire town, they've kind of made sure that nobody's going to come looking for a way to open up any of the other gates.
I suppose. I just don't know. Like, this was a tough one because, yeah, all that stands, sure. However, yeah, it's nice that perhaps that it's like the origin story of zombies. That's kind of a cool thing, but that is not contained in the narrative itself of this film.
Here's the thing is, I'm looking at other zombie films for a second, because if this is...
Okay,
I'm not talking about the Italian zombie films here. I'm talking about zombie films in general and how you rate their antagonists. You never rate the zombies as antagonists because they're ineffective antagonists.
They're
creatures of nature. You always generally, in a zombie film, have a human character who plays the role of the antagonist.
Yeah, good point.
And here you didn't have that. None of the humans were at all antagonistic. Maybe perhaps the blind girl
Emily maybe,
but I don't know her motivation, whether she's a good character or a bad character. She was working with hell, gets killed by hell, and fighting against hell at all the same time.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think that anyone in there there were no antagonists beyond a hell back to zombies, but
no, I think you just got me with that final point. Yeah,
to show that can be done effectively, because to me, like at the beginning, when they crucify the painter, they unlocked the gate of hell, and when she came down there and started having work on it, they actually opened the door. And, from basically the time she opens the hotel, I mean, hell is the backdrop. Zombies don't even come to play it until the end. But, like, in terms of zombie films, like Romero, if you look at Dawn of the Dead, until you get to the ending, because you need a set-piece ending, there is no external antagonist. It is apocalypse, now what? I mean, it's them watching, like, there's a great line in that where they're watching TV and, Fran says, it's really all over, isn't it? I mean, you take that 2 different ways. I'm not saying this is the same quality as that, but in terms of hell providing a backdrop, like the doors open and this is how it's creeping into the world. It's not like a huge antagonist. It's not directly, but it's an undercurrent.
I guess I see what you're saying, but
it's very thinly veiled.
Yes.
But I keep thinking of like some of the antagonists who come in, like, this character versus the fallacy of man, or this character versus
right. I can't even bullshit like society is as I usually like my go-to thing. Like even that wasn't contained.
But that's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of on a different plane. I mean, I'm giving it a 1, but I'm giving it a soft 1 because it's like it's there. It's not like it would be done in like Romero's film, but it's there.
All right. How about this? I'm probably going to give it a 0. However, you could make the case that puppet tarantulas could be your antagonist, I suppose. But I don't know if that's still enough.
I'm giving it a 0.
Yeah. How about you, Rich?
Trying to figure this one out.
Yeah. Has anyone convinced you of anything?
Come on, talk
either way?
through it.
All right, so it's basically as far as hell goes, and at least in some films that I've seen or stories that I've read, it has a bit of a sense of humor. This one just kind of seemed, the personification of hell just seemed kind of juvenile.
Yeah.
And I guess that gives it a bit of a personality for me to give it a 1 for antagonism, but like you said, it was still weak.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Sure, that's interesting point, like interesting angle, but I think weak is that's I think the deciding factor for me.
Yeah, there's too weak an antagonist for me. I have to give it a 0.
Okay, so Rich gives it a 0. I'm the only one who gave it a 1.
Yeah.
And Rich, since we're on to you, since you just figured out you're a 0 for an antagonist, what do you think of the protagonist, and who are they?
Is there one?
Yeah. Dickie the dog.
Yes.
Emily the exposition.
Pippi Longstockings, who gets shot in the head.
I guess I'll have to give it to Liza. She's like, I have to say, most of the time in a horror movie, a protagonist will have some sort of realization, or at least get enough information about what's going on.
You mean an arc?
An arc. She got absolutely nothing.
She got information at the very end, I suppose, but didn't make her have an arc.
She got information by having it shown to her.
Yeah, exactly.
Or having to live through it.
Yeah.
She's like, she just wakes up in hell, and she's like, oh, there was a portal to hell in my basement.
That's what I missed. Fuck, yeah.
Oh, I really shouldn't have opened it. Room 36.
I really should have listened to Emily those 3 or 4 or 5 times.
See, I would argue that the Cavalier Doctor is also a protagonist.
Dr. James Bond.
I agree.
He kind of forced his way into the protagonist spot.
He like muscled his way in, like sort of
like seriously.
haphazardly.
Well, yeah, he, like,
just by the sheer ability to act versus Eliza. Like
his unholy acting talent like took over at the end, I guess.
I just love, like, since it kind of seemed like after it was like the movie made clear that she wasn't going to try to figure this thing out.
Yeah,
he just like had a light bulb, showed up at Emily's house, willed the book into existence.
The book either he read did that, or the book willed itself for him. I
read
guess.
the entire thing within a scene change, and then came back to like coyly ask if she knew what was going on, and then finally telling her, no, I read the fucking book. Some shit's about to go down.
So I know, yeah. It was bizarre, again, like, same thing.
And then he whips out a revolver for some reason, and...
Because he has him in his desk, I guess, in the hospital, because why not?
Unruly patients.
I guess Louisiana has some harsh...
He's the fucking ME! They're already dead, ostensibly. But anyways, I mean, that's all fun.
Maybe he's been preparing for a zombie apocalypse this entire time.
You're right. All right.
Obviously
you know what?
not, though, by
if he was good on him, He prepared by having a gun, but by having no other plan or no other skills.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That. Plus, I might even take him out of protagonist simply because too many chest shots.
Yeah, that's about what I get to. If you hadn't said that, I was going to.
It's like he shoots the first guy in the chest 3 times, and then the head, sees him drop, shoots the next guy in the head, sees him drop, and then goes back to shooting the chest, and then has a good run for 5-6 zombies?
Yeah, something like that.
Where it just drops them. And then goes back to shooting them in the chest to waste all of his bullets.
As we said, I think one of you said it, the movie needs tension right now, so that's why he's doing that. Even though it makes 0 sense at all. But anyway, so do you have any swayed yourself either way on if Liza's the protagonist and then he muscles himself in, then what?
I think the two of them
combined
make one protagonist. Otherwise, I couldn't give it to either of them. So the duo, I'll have to give them a 1.
That might convince me. They definitely don't. On the strength of themselves on their own, 0.5 each, I guess.
I do have to say though, like for being in a horror movie where the gates of hell are opening up, they take it very well.
Yes.
Like there is not a single
Like,
point where they lose their
true.
their fucking cool.
Yeah, that's
except at the end where he loses it and she's just like, well, we're in hell.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the.
She was on like Ambien or something the entire
Yeah.
time.
Well,
or,
I was going to get to that. Where maybe if they showed any emotion whatsoever, you could figure out what they were thinking and feeling. But I think you might have got me though. Like 0.5 each, therefore making a soft one, I guess, at the end of the day.
If it was just Liza, I couldn't
Yeah,
give
no,
you
definitely
love,
not.
I know you love Dr. Bond, so
Yeah, he was just such a fun character, even if he wasn't a good character.
Yeah.
That I
Fair
have
enough.
to give it credit.
I was very surprised that he didn't slap her when she was getting hysterical.
and we were all like leaning like he's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that trope, that convention there.
Yes, sure.
But
he's just
Good subversion.
old tropes. He's entirely cliches.
yeah,
He's built from tropes.
No, but I agree with Rich, and I gave this a lot of thought in the past when we were watching it. That to me, when I think
give
of
it
this
more
movie,
thought than the movie itself did.
when I think of this movie, I think of them combined. I know the scenes where they're separate, but to me, I've always thought of them both as the protagonists.
I think that's valid and applicable, and we'll give it a 1, if not soft, then solid. I
because
suppose
both of them are completely useless without the other.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. They each carried 0.5 of a brain.
Which probably is telling that they ended up in hell by the end of the movie
Yeah.
because neither one of them could figure out how to.
That's why it's
fix
good closure.
anything.
So, Rich,
I'm giving it a 1.
okay, and Ian,
1 as well.
fantastic. Scott, I think this is where everybody's envious that you get to start on this one. Supporting characters.
All right. I'll go reversely. I love Dickie the dog, like I said. Awesome. He had a great scene.
He had a great arc.
Yeah. The dog had a better arc than many human characters. I also liked the renovations guy. I liked his death scene as well. And let's go through. And Dr. Pornstash,
Dr. Harris, yeah.
Dr. Bond's partner in the morgue, he probably has my favorite death. So what happens is, let me try to think about it, right? It's him and Dr. Bond trying to escape through the hospital, and they're somehow like come across a very large window, I believe.
Oh, it was a door with the window
It's a French door,
inset.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so they come across that, and Dr. Bond shoots it. It's like the movie wants you to think that they're very far away from it, but regardless, 2 shards of glass fly out from it into Dr. Pornstash's face and murder him. It's awesome.
Because that's how that works.
Yeah, because that's how physics works, exactly. But maybe it was hell doing it to him. It doesn't really matter.
I would assume. I think they remembered that they finally remembered that he was in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we can only have the last.
You got to kill this
2.
guy somehow. Yeah. And finally, I will get to my favorite, Miss Martha. I'll call her. She shows up out of nowhere, like 20 minutes into the movie. Like when Eliza's doing renovations or like kind of surveying it, we need to fix this, we need to fix that, we need to go to the basement, pump out the water, and she hires a plumber, and they walk down. Eliza and the plumber, who gets murdered shortly thereafter, walk down, and a creepy-ish looking older woman like emerges from the shadows. I thought it was a ghost at first. I think we all did, at least those of us who had not seen this film. But no, she's like the housekeeper, the mother of one of the house workers. Like, I cleared a path for you so you can pump out the water. All right?
Cleared a path just for Joe.
And with having shown up 0 times beforehand, and Melissa goes, "Thanks, Martha," and she walks off screen and disappears.
She waits a bit before she thanks her too, almost as if she's trying to remember who she is.
Like, oh shit. Exactly. It was really bizarre, but I loved it. And then Martha comes back later and to get maybe my third favorite death, to get her back of her head pushed through the nail that's in the wall.
And this is why I felt bad for her, because the entire time they set her up as like this creepy woman who you would think is helping out,
somehow involved.
Somehow involved in this plot, but she just happens
she's
to
just
look
the housekeeper who gets murdered.
But the thing about Martha is she has like the greatest introduction because, and this is again to Fulci's
it's
cinematic
the coldest introduction I've ever seen in my life.
The thing is, the screen goes black except for just enough light to tell that it's water, and then you see this little flame, the reflection of the flame on the water, and then you see the flame, and then Martha, as you said, comes out of the shadows. It is such a great introduction.
So fucking random.
That is really I think that's the first time I've ever seen a scene where somebody is introduced and like they have like it's just not even it's not an establishing character moment at all.
Yeah.
It's just she may as well be fucking furniture that
Yeah.
just happens like, oh, that's a nice chair.
Exactly. Thanks, Martha. Let's move this chair. Yeah.
It's
It
like
was amazing.
even some like they even missed the opportunity where she could have like introduced, because even Joe knew her.
Yeah.
He's just like,
There's something so bizarre but amazing about it, and I like she did a good job as well. Good.
But there's so many good and strange supporting characters. You mentioned earlier Neil deGrasse Tyson. This guy who looks exactly like him is playing music in the
He's part of the jazz
yeah,
band.
he's playing in the background,
He's the
but like
cat- yeah.
every facial expression that he makes is as if he's listening in on the conversation. It's so perfect.
He's the cafe jazz guy who's eavesdropping apparently.
Once you pointed it out, Rich, I could not see anything but Neil deGrasse Tyson. Playing
I was honestly waiting for him to explain the plot to them and why they shouldn't open the door.
It's
of
DeGrasse
36.
Tyson, and his hair is a little longer. It's kind of into like this
Sure.
medium fro, but
I think there's
it's
two
Tyson.
others that Ian's
Alright.
going to speak about
So,
right now as well. That
I
I'm
also
not
wanna talk
specifically
about-
for you.
I already mentioned him too. The civil servant guy. He was fantastic, but we already talked about him. But my favorite character in this film is creepy bookseller,
Yes, I know.
who is just like you're introduced. He's just cackling in the back of this bookshop, and is just the strangest character ever. Has nothing at all to do with the plot. And it's almost as if they were in this town filming, found this guy, like, hey, would you like to be in a movie? Just act like yourself.
That's
This
what it
guy
felt
is
like.
So
They probably
so
heard him
fantastic.
laughing at the
Yeah.
next table at a bar, and they're like,
Sure.
"Oh my
They were-
god!"
They were probably filming, and he just kind of just sat there and would not leave.
But somehow, like, it adds amazing atmosphere to it, even though, again, it comes out of nowhere, has no meaning or bearing whatsoever.
It's something you would think out of like a Lovecraftian tale of
Yes.
like finding out the town
Yeah.
is not quite right. Except the town is normal and just this one small
He's
hotel
just
is
a
not
weird
right.
dude, yeah.
But the thing I love about that is he's sitting there like totally ignoring her, writing in his book, cackling, and then he stops and looks over and he's like, "Can I help you?"
Or he's like, do you want to buy that
"Do you
book?
want to buy that book? It's a good book. It's been here for like 20 years. Nobody's bought it, or 2 years. Nobody's bought it."
She's like, no, this was a different book. It's like, it is not a different book. Because
Back
it's-
to-
And then Ben, like, scene over, no reason for that to even happen, but it was amazing that it did. So I agree with all that. I have to give it a 1.
But we,
you got
but
anything
we
else?
haven't talked about actually the most important secondary character,
Arthur?
Ellen.
Oh.
Emily.
Emily Exposition.
Yeah, Emily Exposition,
Mm.
who is theoretically the most important person in this film,
Theoretically.
except that she's not. At
She's
all.
so bland that I literally forgot
Yeah.
about her.
Like, she actually did a good job
Mm,
as
Sure.
acting,
if you say so.
and she provided the soundtrack for this.
all right, shit, you're right about that. Like, that might have just... I forgot that she was literally playing the soundtrack at the piano in her own house. That is funny.
All of those scenes, especially that one, just the look on the actress that plays Liza, like the look on her face while she's sitting there, it's almost as if she like invited her back, had said nothing, and just started playing the piano for like
Well,
5 to
the
10
best
minutes.
thing is, that Liza ran. She found her on the bridge with the dog.
Yeah.
That really long wide shot.
Yes.
So presumably she gave him a ride back to their house. She went in the house with them. And then, like you said, it's just like, okay, not a, thank you for the ride. It's just like, come, it's like you in the house and she sits down and starts playing the theme to the.
She's like,
The
why
literal-
did I come in here? She's like,
I mean,
oh yeah, by the way, don't open up room 36.
yeah.
Thanks, I guess. Yeah, it's just bizarre. But you're right. I mean, yes, she's an important character, I suppose.
She should be.
Like
She
I
should
said,
be
I
the
suppose.
cornerstone of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it isn't written.
They didn't handle it well.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she should have either had, shown up here and there and not tried to make so much of her part, or for the amount of time she was on screen, really done something with her.
Sure.
part.
Or expositioned about important things.
And not
Versus-
about other shit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, like,
She really like that's why I had to laugh when she's like, I did what you asked. I was like, you did nothing.
Well, that's
Like,
what.
Well, we don't know what they asked you since the movie did not tell us or show us.
I'm just assuming she dropped the ball anyway.
yeah, without question.
Fair enough.
I agree. I think she was supposed to make sure they opened the gate of hell, and she was really.
And she
trying-
only did that by accident.
Yeah.
Like she just happened to run into a dumb,
Yeah, true.
ignorant New Yorker.
Okay, you pick me up. I let you into my house, and I sit here, play piano, ignore you, give you the information you need only after you ask for it. What more do I have to tell you? I mean,
It's like I love after she told her, like Liza gave that New Yorker speech. She's like, I'm from New York. And there's one thing we don't believe in, it's ghosts.
Yeah, like, all right. But
And
I think,
I like
quickly, I think I point out, like, she never said anything about ghosts per
No,
se.
no.
That was never addressed by anyone.
and I also liked her little slips back into her English accent, which was really
Sure, I guess. But I don't know, like, yeah, like, she's sort of, like, neither here nor there at the end of the day because of the way the film handled it. But everything I just said, and especially Martha, of course, I'm going to give it a 1.
Oh, I'm giving it a
And
1
bookstore
because of
guy also.
because of my 2 favorite characters, which are the butt monkeys of this entire film. Arthur and Little Ginger.
Little
Pippi
girl.
Longstocking.
What did you say? Who was it? That might have been the theme. What did you say before about the gingers? Because Dr. Harris was a ginger,
No,
the little girl was a ginger, and then the architect was too.
Yes, he was.
Or not
gingers
the
were getting
architect, the
punished.
interior decorator.
Hell hates gingers, I guess.
Yes, it does.
you
Hell
can
hates
say.
gingers.
Hell takes special pleasure in killing gingers. At
Gru-
first driving them
gruesomely,
crazy.
Yes.
In her
I guess.
case. Alright, it hates women and gingers. Mostly both. But, like, this poor girl shows up for her mother to dress her father for the funeral. Which I don't know why they didn't get a undertaker to do it, but whatever.
She just rolls up to the morgue.
Yeah, just rolls us to the morgue, goes through ignores the no entry sign.
Yeah, again, bizarrely. But
The do not entry sign.
yeah.
And then, like, goes in to find her mother dying, and then later that day has to go to 2 funerals.
Or at least it's
within
implied
one.
it was later that day.
No, this movie was terrible with time
Yeah,
management. Because,
exactly.
or explaining how much time was in between shots.
Or not explaining.
Because it seems like they never show nighttime, so it just seems like all of these events are happening within, like, the first 4 hours of the day.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like at 8 o'clock, this guy fell off the rafter.
Noon, her mother goes into jail.
Yeah.
Some 3 o'clock funeral.
Yeah.
Now both her parents are dead, I guess.
And I like how, like, at the funeral, she's got her eyes closed because you got to have the reveal that she's got.
Like, nobody gives her a hug. I think one person gave her a pat on the back.
They give her a pat on the back, kiss on the cheek, and, like, everybody's just like, all right, peace out.
Yeah,
so you
they
leave,
do.
like, this little 12-year-old girl in a grave. And, like, the priest is just like, all right, take it
That
easy.
nobody cares to look at
Yeah.
her. Like, both of her parents are dead. She probably has nowhere to live. And they're just like, oh, she's all right. She just needs to go cry it out.
Yeah.
And then looks up to
hilarious.
find out she's blind now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about funeral expenses. It's been taken care of in your parents' will. All right, take it easy.
And then the next time you see her, it turns out she's been living in the
In the
morgue.
morgue. I was about
because
to get
like,
to that.
that's,
Yes, exactly.
that's like the only place that she has left.
Again, because why not? Sure.
Because why not? Both of her parents were there.
Yeah, so all that is hilarious, but I'm giving it a 1 based on all the
of course, and
various
Arthur, too.
All right, yeah, Arthur, too. You
Arthur.
can throw him in there.
Yeah, this is
For sure.
You know,
Yeah, because
for-
he's
for-
like, seriously, every time that they've shown him, he was getting yelled at for something. And he just looks so confused and hurt. And, like, the first line he had was it, I'm trying my best.
Yeah. Doing my best here.
Yeah, and that could be his mantra for the whole film.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that he wasn't a zombie at the end.
No.
He just happened to slip, fall in. He was reaching for Liza's help, and then they just kicked the shit out of him for no reason.
That could very well be true. But that
Which would make sense
yeah.
for this movie.
yeah, that
Because
puts a
he's the
different spin
kind
on
of
it.
person that would get fucked over the worst.
I have never seen a movie with, like, less story, less character development that had the best array of characters. I mean, like,
How are the secondary characters more engaging than the protagonists?
It's bizarre, but
Or the
amazing.
antagonist.
because they were amazing window dressing is what they were.
Yeah, good world building.
I mean,
on that front.
like going from scene to scene with a lot of padding. He said, "All right, here's a character archetype, and I want this character to do this, so why not?" And it's just amazing little character moments without any lead up or payoff.
Sure. So anyway, I gotta give it a 1.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yep.
Okay, and oh god, I got dialogue. Okay.
Oh no, you've got dialogue, is what you mean to say. Oh my god, there's a Hellgate, guys. Oh shit, go on. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh man, I don't know, the dialogue was not good.
Can we just
but
say
there were
0 and move on? Like, just
But
just
there,
point out
well,
something
all right, there
that's
were
funny.
some great lines, but I don't think that's enough to.
I don't think
They
that's
were
true.
great lines because they were intended to be great lines. They were
Yeah.
great lines because they were acted poorly or just like awkwardly or it's so
Awkward
much-
transitions
yeah.
a lot. I was going to say, so I now remember this one. My favorite, Dr. Pornstache again, towards the latter half of the movie, when the zombies are assaulting the hospital, he meets up with Dr. Bond, Cavalier Bond. He goes, I think I'm going crazy. Here they come. Like, there's no transition. It's not smooth at all.
Like, they
It's
lost
just-
that footage.
It's fucking hilarious, but doesn't make it good.
What was the opening line when for Arthur's opening line when like he just bursts in the door.
Oh, she's like, Arthur,
what are you doing in my room?
Where's the doctor? And he's just like, he just like sticks his head, like slides into the room,
He's
stares
all
at the
sweaty.
camera, all sweaty, says, I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
And then just looks really sad and like crestfallen, and just turns and walks out of the room.
It's bizarre, and it's also badly done. I don't know what to say. Like,
And then
aside from
everybody has that moment of pause where they're just like,
yeah, I don't
just
like,
happened?
I was gonna say I don't know if you want to count this in dialogue per se. It might be style, but there are many times in which it cuts from a close up of one character's face who's facing another character, like back and forth. But they're not saying anything. They're just like like making pain faces or whatever faces they're supposed to be making.
Arthur kind of reminded me like of a D-grade Peter Lorre. It's just like,
Sure.
wow.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
I mean, you could tell like they had his hair slicked back, and it's just like, you're not quite Peter Lorre, but like if you found a
But
Peter
you are
Moore,
in this movie, so
yeah. If you were at a high school production of Casablanca, this is what you know.
sure, I guess. But I
The community theater Casablanca.
good.
So I mentioned this while we were watching the movie. It felt that characters weren't given any instruction by the director
Yes,
on what kind of tone they should
or by
take,
the script,
or
or by anything really.
Yeah, but they were given the script. This is the lines you're going to say, but no context for what you're
Right.
supposed to be feeling here.
Exactly,
So
that's
each
what I'm saying.
actor would come in with almost a different emotion, or interpretation of the
Yes.
scene.
Yeah.
So like one character is very like it's weird.
It seemed like those close-ups were more to illustrate how the actors are trying to read each other to act the scene.
Yeah.
But they were like, because like when they're staring at each other, you see them like trying to match each other's emotions.
Yeah, that could very well be true.
And then like it'll do a quick cut when they're just too confused for it to work.
Yeah, they're like,
The
all right,
actual dialogue
next scene.
script for this was probably maybe 20 pages long, if that.
I almost want to look it up. And
I
see
do
if
too.
see
Yeah.
if it was written on a dinner
Like,
napkin.
It was
like I
just
was telling you guys
flat
before,
as shit at best.
Fulci made 3 films at once. This one, Gates of Hell, and House by the Cemetery,
Yeah,
which
well,
gave me
maybe
a migraine.
don't make 3 fucking films at once
Yeah,
with
but
the same actors.
but what I'm saying is, no, I'm not excusing this. I'm just saying that when you shoot
all right, fine.
part of it in Studio Rome, part of it in Louisiana, it's little wonder that actors walked around like not knowing what they were doing. It's just like,
I
you
guess
know,
They're
I'm-
probably jet lagged as all hell.
Yeah, well, I was
too.
just gonna say, am I on Louisiana time or am I in Rome time?
I
now?
guess for context, but that doesn't make it like
No,
that's a whole
not at
culture
all.
movie.
No. So I'm giving it a 0.
Oh, yeah.
0 big time, big hell
0.
0 for me.
Zeros all around. And Ian, let's talk about style.
All right. I actually like the style quite a bit of this film. They have, like, Fulci knows how to set up action pieces for horror.
Mm.
He knows how to make effective, practical, not always effective. Like the torrential scene was
But decent
almost
ones.
inexcusable practical effects.
But all the eye
But-
deaths were awesome.
Yeah, but most he does eye violence porn very well.
Yes.
And like he sets up those, and that's what he's selling this movie on.
Oh.
But you want to go see some crazy shit happen to people's like a nail go through someone's eye, or you want to see someone like disemboweled by like whatever. It's those scenes he's selling, and that's his intent. And he does it very well. Whether you want to talk about styles for like cinematography and all that, again, yeah, that'll work. But really, it's his practical effects. It's like in a way, John Carpenter. I think John Carpenter does it all much better, but John Carpenter is very much known for his practical effects that he does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in a way, this is the knockoff Italian version of John Carpenter practical effects.
God damn you! I was going to say something very much like that, but I think it's true. So
But I mean, getting back to the introduction where you said that when the painter is being beaten with chains, that is even when I know it's coming, is one of those things that's still kind of jarring to me.
Oh, it got me.
Yeah.
Immediately got me.
I mean, because it's weird because even though you know it's prosthetics or whatever, I mean it's just you feel the impact of the chain. It's just like this.
Yeah, the way it cuts to that strike.
Yeah.
For all the unrealistic things like
It is
tarantulas
definitely
pulling
well
out
done.
tongues, this one was very realistic enough.
But say, I even like that. Like, yes, it was like over the top and like not believable, but because it's still like sort of drawn out, the tarantula thing specifically, that is, it's
I mean,
still
very drawn out.
yeah, yes, extremely drawn out. But it's still like sort of like when it finally gets to that point, you're like, it's still kind of like teeth gritting, if you will.
Yeah.
And same thing with the dog eating Emily's throat.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was pretty hardcore and looked pretty good. So yeah, like you said, I guess like he's sort of like advertising that that come see this film for this. But also the shots like themselves, even beyond the horror shots in quotes, if you will, it was all perfectly, I think, quite well done. And the yes, it was like the widest shot in the world, but it looked cool. It was almost like a Hitchcock. I thought to myself, Hitchcock could have shot something like that. So, like, I think that's
Really
a compliment, I would say. So, overall, I think it's a solid one.
Plus, especially just that scenery.
Oh, yeah. In fact, yeah, you're right. And the final scene, the final, 5 minutes of the landscape painting looked great, was well done.
The introduction. And the introduction, like I said, it's like the way he uses the rack focus at the beginning actually fed into, like, how the scene was playing out, how the introduction was playing out, because you're getting all the pieces. Later on, in the middle of the film, he just does rack focus, but like in the beginning, it really is very competent filmmaking, in terms of that. It's just, but I agree with you. I'm giving it a strong 1 because whether they were over the top scenes or like the ending or the beginning where it's a little more competently put together, I think it's great.
So I want to talk about the soundtrack for a second.
Absolutely.
Which was both awful and amazing at the same time.
Somehow at once, yes. True.
Because they have such, like, and I use the word, but jaunty jazz tunes in some of the most violent segments. And they have...
do you think that's why he picked Louisiana, so he can get away with it?
Maybe. I actually think that's a really good question.
But the first time it happens, it's so off-putting. And then you kind of get into it.
It's jarring, but you're like, then you sort of become expecting, like, a face is being melted off with acid, but, like, again, like, a little toe tapping.
I kind of wanted them to close out with the Saints Come Marching In, like once they're in hell.
That would have been amazing as well.
I mean,
no, you're right. It becomes weird, but then you sort of, like, roll with it and somehow, like, is endearing for it.
If the Goblin, who's done, a lot of, like, Romero's Dawn of the Dead and, like, virtually all of Argento's, I don't know who these people were, but they were kind of like a poor man's Goblin, because Goblin can really do the transition between, like, creepy and then, like, kind of more whimsical.
Sure.
But in the hands of a different director, you don't have, it doesn't go, the buildup isn't creepy, and then all of a sudden when somebody's getting ripped apart, you got the, the 70s Italian disco fused with Louisiana jazz.
Sure.
Wow, that's a hell of a...
I know.
It's a great genre.
It's like going to a restaurant where they have Italian and Chinese and German and,
Just give me one of everything.
Exactly.
Mix it all up.
So anyway,
I have to say, I fell in love completely with the soap opera style close-ups.
Yes.
I loved every bit of that.
Although I fell in love with it, but I did find them more and more amusing. I was happy when they happened because I could laugh at myself.
And one thing I did like about this was the zombies. They weren't like flesh-eating zombies. They were just kind of animated flesh, which, visually looked a lot scarier than, zombies coming out with their hands and their mouths open.
They almost looked like they weren't even really zombies, just the patients that kind of got out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the ones, And there was that one, like, and most of them had makeup. There was one guy that did not.
Yeah.
That I just have to assume kind of accidentally found his way in there.
They ran out of makeup. They're like, just get in the scene, whatever. Like,
and they all have their heads down. They're all kind of like looking towards the floor. And
I mean, it was creepy enough.
Yeah, great imagery.
It was fine. So solid one.
I agree. The zombies died pretty slowly too.
Yeah, that's
usually a headshot drops them pretty quick.
They definitely milked their deaths even when they did get headshot.
I'm giving it a 1.
Outstanding. So it's one, Ian?
One's all around.
Exactly. Okay. So, Rich, would you recommend this movie?
Well, if you got some good friends and a few drinks, I would definitely recommend this movie.
Some popcorn and some booze, and watch it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a different horror movie experience, or if you want to see how a movie can pad itself so heavily for an hour and a half, I would say go see it.
I don't know. So it's a funny group movie. It's to watch and sit around.
If you need a movie for bad movie night, definitely pick this.
I think that's a very specific recommendation, but because oftentimes that's what you do with Halloween, horror movies, if you will.
Chris, how did you end up watching this?
In the 80s, my buddy and I...
were you doing a movie night?
No. I was a big horror movie fan, still am. And back in the day when we had these things called videotapes and these things called video stores, you'd go to the video store and, like, you'd like see, like, you'd see like the mainstream stuff like Poltergeist or whatever, and
Right.
Dawn of the Dead, and then you'd see like Cronenberg's Rabid or They Came From Within, and then in between you'd see things like Zombie Lake, and then you'd come on the Fulci stuff like Zombie and this. So we were just kind of working our way through the films, and it's just like, all right, let's watch The Beyond, let's watch Zombie, and that's how I happened upon it. And the thing I remember most are the beginning, the ending, and all the little visuals we were talking about. As I said before, I always forget about the
aside from the story, which could go
endless
fuck itself,
minutia. Well, I knew going into this, and I'm just going to say this right now. I specifically wanted you guys to see this for two reasons. In earnestly, because I thought the visual style is really great. I thought the beginning and ending were handled well. But I also thought the way we like absurdist stuff, like the way we discuss the supporting characters and so forth, I thought it was something that overall that we'd all find things we'd either really enjoy and appreciate or laugh at or laugh with. I mean, I wasn't doing this ironically like, hey, I'm going to show my guy, my friends a really shitty movie so we can all rip on it. No, honestly, I didn't, if I thought you all were going to give it zeros, I wouldn't have recommended it. I figured there'd be like at least a couple ones in here.
This is not a good movie.
No, not at all.
But it's a charming movie. I think Scott, you mentioned earlier it's endearing.
Yeah.
And it is so. I wasn't particularly laughing at the movie. I was laughing in a way with the movie.
Yeah.
Over if you had a bigger budget, I could have seen this being a much better movie. If it had, it's not quite there, but it could have been.
Yes.
And there's a lot of fun. Some of the acting is awful, but a lot of the secondary characters are having a lot of fun with it. So overall, I didn't hate this movie. And if you're doing a bad movie night, this is something that
perfect for
I wish I knew about this movie back in high school. I think all of my friends and I would have enjoyed it.
I think I agree with most of that. Everything you guys just said. I think it's solid enough. Of course, it's not a good movie, but it's fun to watch.
I'll tell you this. I am down to watch this movie again.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was turning in my mind, that, I wouldn't hate watching it again, and I think that may have been the deciding factor for me to recommend it.
I have to go by my own rules. If there's one person in 100 that I could recommend this to, I've got to give it a recommendation because
Right.
and I did recommend it to you guys for the reasons that I said. So I'm giving it a 1.
All right.
I just seeing that scene where Martha was introduced without really being introduced, blew my fucking mind. I've never seen that done before.
There's a lot of minutia in the middle.
A lot of balls on the movie for that one.
I'm going to say this. There's a lot of minutia in the movie, but the beginning, the ending does kind of pay off the beginning. So.
Sure. Oh, definitely. That's, like Scott said, that's one of my favorite endings from either a horror film or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian? So you're giving it a 1, Rich?
Yeah.
Scott?
I think we all recommended it.
Yes, I would. There's caveats, but I overall recommend
Still
it.
worth it, sure.
Okay, so Ian, do you have the aggregate score?
Yes, just there you go. So, Chris, who recommended this movie for MOTS-O-Ween, gave it a 7. And Scott, Rich, and myself gave it 6.
Obviously.
Awesome. Which is also what we had in one of the other MOTS-O-Weens.
Would you say it's a hell of a movie? Hey-oh!
So our aggregate score is
all I've got.
6.25.
Which is,
It's probably about
that's
right.
about right.
Yeah, sure.
I'm good with that score.
Average movie, and fun.
It balances itself out well.
Hmm?
So does anybody have anything else to say regarding Lucio Fulci's The Beyond?
No, I'm going to go buy, hopefully, and/or inherit a hotel that has a gate to hell myself after this episode.
Just make sure you surround yourself with a good cast of secondary characters.
Yes, exactly. You're right.
Scott's going to be rummaging around in his basement.
I'll just be sweeping up shit in the background, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, everybody, I can say we recommend this movie, and we've given you the caveats. So, happy Halloween. I have been joined with Scott Thurlow.
Good night. Have a good one.
Rich Perry.
Good night. Don't open up door 36.
And Ian Manzer.
I'm going going to open my own bookstore and just laugh at all my customers creepily.
If we win the lottery, I'm buying you a bookstore. It doesn't have to make any money. It's going to be paid. And you can sit there, do whatever you want, and laugh at the customers.
Just have no books except for the one that he's reading that he refuses to let people buy.
Sounds good.
Good night and happy Halloween.
Music and editing by Chris Morgan.